Welcome to the MAM Journals. I wanted to give you a bit of an update as to what we're doing with the channel now, because I'm planning to go into a summer break. So I want to talk about that and what the thinking behind that is. And thirdly, I'm just going to take the opportunity to show you around the garage again and talk about some of the projects that I am working on. Because although I plan to have a break, we certainly will be coming back later on in the year once I've accumulated a series of videos that I think of the quality and interest that I want to let you all have a look at. So that really sort of leads me in nicely to why. Some of you will have been kind enough to be watching me learn how to make videos for the last couple of years. And we went from a very random approach to just occasionally bringing them out as and when the mood sort of suited, into at the end of last year we went into a bi-weekly format. And the bi-weekly format, I did have its benefits because it certainly gave me a bit of discipline to actually get things done. But in fairness, it feels a little bit like it's turned into production line, and that's never what I wanted to do with the channel. The idea of me taking the time to do videos is I feel I've got something to say on a bike that inspires me to say it, and just trying to fill that every 2 weeks is getting not quite the fun that I was looking for when I first set it out. So I still want to make videos and indeed do plan to, but perhaps not with that forced regularity that a bi-weekly schedule would give me. My plan is to actually put a few together. I will be continuing to film in the summer when the mood and the bike takes me, and I can put something together that I'm happy with the quality of, and then when I've assembled a collection of them, I'll let you know, and we'll then run them in a sort of a weekly, bi-weekly sequence so that you can catch up with where I am. In order to facilitate that, if you'd be kind enough, if you have subscribed, be kind enough to click the accepting notifications box. That will enable the algorithm to let you know when I'm back on air, which I'm anticipating being later in the summer. So let me just walk you around, because it will act as a good prompt to talk to you about the projects that I will be working on whilst I am off air. So start with the Kawasaki ZRX. That bike I've run it once so far this year. It started fine, and I'm actually looking forward to taking it out and enjoying a run on it. There's actually a meeting, ZRX group meeting at Wellesbourne, which is where they keep one of the old RAF Vulcans. There's a nice aerodrome and cafe there, meeting a group there. They're very knowledgeable, very helpful, and always good to catch up with. So I'm looking forward to that. That's the 21st of May, so if you've got one of those, then please feel free to join us. I'm sure you'd be very welcome. This bike, of course, is my other Kawasaki, my Z900 RS, and it's replaced my Jaffa, and I'm actually in the process of doing a comparison between the Jaffa, which I fitted with nitrons, and this one, which is the SE and fitted with Öhlins. I've done the on my first impressions video, which some of you may have watched. The bike's actually going in for its 600 mile service soon, and the guys at Newbury Kawasaki very kindly offered to lend me a Z650, the twin that's come, retro twin that's come out, which I've sort of quite fancy having a go on really. And if the mood takes me and I'm taken by the bike, I'll make a video on it and share that with you later in the year. But I have of course got to make the video comparing the Z900 RS with my Jaffa with the suspension, how I've got on. But I need a few more miles on before I can do that. I'll get that sorted in the summer. Something that somebody has suggested, or in fairness, 3 people have mentioned to me, and I thought maybe there's an idea, and I'd be very interested to hear your views. Why don't I do a comparison between that tribute bike, obviously a tribute to the original Z900, although some people think they look more like the Zephyrs, which I understand, and that tribute bike, the ZRX, which is obviously a tribute to the 80s bike, and the Eddie Lawson, that particular colour, is sort of harking back to an Eddie Lawson style bike. And why don't I just compare the two? Because they're both, as I say, tributes, and they're both not, they're both very nice bikes, but quite different, although achieving the same performance. So let me know if you think that's of interest, and if I get enough people who want me to do it, I'll do it. This is my Suzuki V-Strom. Now, I offended a few V-Strom owners by referring it to it as a winter bike. Now, in fairness to me, it is my winter bike, so that's how I look at it. I don't really ride it in the summer, but as people did quite rightly point out, it's capable of a lot more. That's a good bike, whether you're riding it in the winter, the summer, or the fall, really. So, apologies if I've offended you, but it still is my winter bike. I'm actually Suzuki King's Two-Wheel Centre have very kindly, they lend me a lot of bikes, they're very generous, and they very kindly offered to lend me the new 800 version that's coming out. So I'll be having a test on both the road going one of that and the sort of the adventure style one, and see how I get on and what I think. I'm sure it will have some improvements, but as I said in the video that I made on this one earlier this year, I think the 650 is a great value for money and good bikes. The Suzuki, I've got 4 Suzukis in here. This Suzuki, I need to get out on Hayabusa a bit more. In fairness, my wife, I've had it a couple of years now, my wife keeps saying to me, and at what point are you going to take me out on the Hayabusa? So I best resolve that fairly quickly. Interestingly, it's got a recall. Master cylinder needs to be replaced. I'm glad it's being replaced free of charge under warranty, because that's over £300 OE price. In fairness, I've not had any problems with brakes, nor do I know anybody who has, although like all these things, the forums are chattering away about the recall. So I'll get that sorted out. They've ordered the part for me. They're very good, and they'll get it in quickly, I'm sure. Looking at that Suzuki has reminded me that I've actually done 1 track day so far this year. I've been quite busy actually riding. One of the reasons I want a summer break is I've got lots of trips planned. I went to Donington and I rode a Yamaha R7 and a Yamaha R6. I had a great time doing it. I'm always a bit wary talking about track days because I don't want to give the impression that I'm anything other than slightly brisk. I don't consider myself a fast rider, but looking at that, I've already booked 2 more track days, both at Silverstone GP circuit, which is fabulous. It's good if you've not done it and you are into track days, do it. Just a fabulous circuit. Although you can get lost, it's that big and that flat. And I am going to do one on an R6, but I'm tempted to do the second one, which I booked in July, to maybe take this. I think a GSX-R 750 would be great fun around there. Some people will say, well, you need more power, but I'm sure I can fright myself just enough with that 750 to get that little edge in it as you're hurtling down the straight. That'd be great fun. Looking forward to doing that. I probably won't record that, but I'll mention it in something that I do, let you know how I got on. This bike is one of my favourite bikes, to be honest. The GT Suzuki 1000 is fantastic tourer. We've been away already this year. We've done 1,800 miles down to Portugal. Through Spain. We went to the Motogp down there, and it was absolutely perfect. Overall, I've already done 4,500 miles this year. So probably well on our way to between 15 and 20,000 miles. But to do that, I can't spend all my time filming. Sorry, guys. People say to me, do the MAM journals actually exist? The answer to that is, if you can see that, they do. I make actually a journal every year, and I record in it every time I ride. That's how I know what my mileage is and any observations and thoughts that I've had. And it's a nice thing to look back on when I'm sort of thinking about certain bikes, what characteristics they've got, how they compare to others. So, yeah, there is a MAM journal. There it is. I've been out on that bike. That just makes me laugh, to be honest. It's lots of power and not much chassis, and pretty average brakes. I mean, they're good. They're Brembo brakes. They're good, but they're not ABS, and you've got no traction control or anything like that. So that is just a laugh. Great fun. This bike I finally accepted. I've been talking about selling it. forever. It feels like forever, but I think there's part of me that didn't want to sell it because I wasn't really finished with GSs. There's something about them, they're quirky, but I do like them. And I've now got a low chassis GS, and I'm now completely comfortable that my 2006 1200 with 6,500 miles, which is criminally low, but just life got in the way, and that's ready to go. That's my 996R. That will be run. I try to run all the bikes every year, but there is going to be an exception, which is on the left there, which I'll explain to you in a minute. But that, I need to pick a nice warm day for that, to take that 996R out, and preferably when the dentist and the chiropractors are open, because it will beat the living daylights out of me. But they are very special, as indeed is that, which is the Honda SP1. Now, I've got a little bit of work to do on this. This is probably going to be put SORN, a statutory off-road notification, I think that stands for, but might be wrong. Sometimes that. But if you look down here, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little, yeah, you can just about see that on the camera. There's a little nick, stone chip, in that plating in the chrome for the leg. And 2 years ago, we replaced the seals. And fork oil does two things in life, really. Firstly, it acts and supports your damping function, and the second thing, it makes plots to escape, which is his favourite pastime. And as you can see, it's been successful. So we knew when we did it that there was a possibility, because they're only tiny little marks. They just punch a hole in the seal there, and the edge of that seal binding, and that fluid will come through. We knew at the time that there was a possibility it wouldn't hold. We accepted it, we did it, and thought, well, it now hasn't. I'll get it done properly. That'll be off, re-chromed, and new seals and oil put in. Our trouble is that process takes 12 weeks. Not obviously the work, but the lead-in time for it. So sadly, I think I'm unlikely to put any miles on this bike this year. Right, let me talk you through here. This is my Royal Enfield Big Bore. I like this more every year, to be honest. I've had it 4 years now, and it's great fun. It's just got a lot of character. It starts absolutely on the button. Been completely reliable since the big bore conversion, and it's a very personal bike. Some of you might recall when I bought this bike that I said in the first of my videos on the Royal Enfield that it's really a bike that I wanted to explore the Cotswolds, and I do like. There's two sorts of riding I do in the main. There's ones when I'm concentrating and making good progress, as the manuals say, and there's others times when I just want to take a bike out and bimble around. And this is my bimbling around bike, and I plan to do a video series on this. In fairness, we started doing it already, and it's going to be called the Big Bore Mystery History Tour. And I'm going to ride it around the Cotswolds and point out some interesting things, or what I find interesting, and hopefully that tie actually into the bike. We've already started to do some filming on it, but to be honest, I wasn't very happy with the results, and in particular the GoPro footage that I managed to get. As you mount them in different areas, you have to try and get shots that you're pleased with. It just wasn't up to the standard that I thought was suitable for what we're trying to do. So we've binned attempt number one. I do know I can do it. I just need time to quietly go off and get it how I want it to be, because I've got a picture in my head of what I'm trying to talk about and how I want to do it, but it's not always easy to capture when you're doing outside broadcasts, so to speak, or filming, because you've got very little control of light and sound, shadows and all those sort of things. So I'll get there, but that's a cracking little bike, and I'm looking forward to that project when I've got it how I want it. The reason I'm not too devastated that I'm not actually going on to have the SP1 this year is, of course, I've got an SP2, and I've already been out on that and done 60 odd miles on it. It's a great bike. Now, you forget, I mean, these bikes are probably the nearest I come to any coherent sense of a collection as such. It's the 2000, 2001, 2002 Euro Superbikes homologation bikes, and they are of a different generation. In those days, you know, you had sports suspension and you had touring suspension, and never the two would meet. Nowadays, of course, bikes are much more flexible, so they're very uncompromising, but they are very charismatic. There's something quite special about riding that bike with that V-twin thump, the noise and the torque. Lovely. Great fun. Enjoyed it. That bike, of course, is a bike that I should have sold years ago. I mean, who on earth needs a bike that does that level of performance was always my logical argument. And then I take it out and ride it, and I say that'll be staying another year then, because they are just extraordinary bikes, really. I'm not sure how long they're going to make bikes like that, but what they do, I'm going to have one in my garage. And I haven't taken it out this year, but I will, and I'll no doubt come to exactly the same conclusion. This is the replacement, my GS Trophy, the replacement for the 1200 that I have definitely got round to selling. Sorry about the light behind, I should have closed that door down. And I've done about 1700 miles on this so far, and I'm going to do a comparison between this and the GSX 1000 GT. And people might say, well, how can you compare them? Well, they're both bikes that my wife and I tour on, so for us they are the same sort of objective. I've got to carry luggage, got to carry two of us, and got to be close enough to the ground so I can get my feet on the floor, and or part of my feet on the floor. So I will be doing that comparison. At the moment, we've just done 385 miles. We went up to Wales and did a test because I thought, I'm not sure, that's what's called an enduro seat on these trophies. And there's not much padding on there. And I said, before we actually sort of go to Scotland, which happens soon, do you just want to try this seat? So we went up to Wales. You could do it for the summer because the rain was warmer. And said, well, how did you get on? And she said, yeah, she's fine with it. So far be it from me to complain. If she's happy with it, we'll go up to Scotland and see how we get on. At some point during that journey, a penny will drop and I'll work out how I feel about the difference between the two and which one I'd rather tour on. But at the moment, I've done far more miles on the Suzuki than I've done on this, so jury's still out. One thing I do struggle a bit with this is, I don't know if you can see it back there on those back fins. Boy, this thing is hard to keep clean. I mean, I have been most in the wet because this is Britain, we specialise in rain, and if I'm not careful, this bike is going to end up with more miles vertically than horizontally, because I do have the constant urge to sort it out. But I will get it better than it is now. I will then ride it to Scotland, get it dirty again, and the process will start all over. But I'm looking forward to having the ride up and coming to some sort of conclusion, and then putting a video together for you to hear the views and come to your own conclusions. I do hope you enjoyed that short garage tour, and a useful way to update you on the projects that I'm working on. I'm conscious that many of you are like me, you're passionate motorcyclists, and I do hope that you enjoy the summer and manage to get some miles in out there on your bikes. As always, ride safe and stay well. I look forward to seeing you later in the year.